And John's roast pork's good. It's right near where the Eagles play, so that's one place. There's several good cheesesteaks places, but John's is my favorite. White House in Atlantic City would be up there. If you're not in Philadelphia, Jim Steak's good. But I'd recommend for those who've not been to Philly to do the best cheesesteak search, and they'll rank them top 10. And I was telling the wife that maybe I'll make that my bucket list and try like the top 20 or 30 and try to risk a heart attack to see which ones are truly the best. So
Wow.
definitely on my bucket list to kind of see what we can do. That should be fun.
As an alternative, there's where I'm from, there's a restaurant that makes what they call a Hachi Dog, and it's a grilled hot dog on cheese, has some sauerkraut, onions. It has its own special Hachi sauce, and you can add ketchup and mustard. Awesome.
What's
They were
hockey
good as a
sauce?
kid.
What's hockey sauce?
Hachi sauce. It's
Yeah.
it's a barbecue type sauce, spicy, but it's very very delicious.
Hmm.
If you get a container, put it in your car, that smell will stay in the car for a long time.
So maybe we need to go out and combine the two, cheesesteak with hockey sauce. There you go.
Aha.
Like Reese's Pieces.
Hey, Joe, we're going to shift gears here.
Sure.
I'm hungry now, but we'll have to eat a little later. But good afternoon,
Good
good
afternoon.
evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's Talking Tech, and thank you for joining us. I'm Army veteran Dan Hunter, a tech evangelist and a communications specialist in the Office of Information and Technology, and your host of this series, Talking Tech. So, wherever you are, take a seat, prop up your feet, enjoy today's discussion, and send out a tweet. Like, share, and comment throughout the show. We have an interview to do, so let's go. This series gives VA technology experts an opportunity to share what they're doing to serve our nation's veterans. They discuss best practices, strategies, techniques, and other tips designed to enhance the experience for veterans. For background leading into today's discussion, we're going to talk about security. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and in this particular case, we want to talk about how we can protect our veterans. According to the Federal Trade Commission, in 2019, our nation's veterans lost 44% more in damages to cyber criminals compared to the non veteran. The Federal Trade Commission also reported that between 2017 and 2021, the military and veteran community reported over $820 million in losses from cybercrime. This results in financial losses that have a devastating impact on veterans, their careers, and their families' overall well being. Recently, the department partnered with the Cybercrime Support Network to protect veterans who are targeted for identity theft and other online scams. This partnership provides educational resources that strengthen online security for service members, veterans, and their families. Today, we have Joe Stenaka. He is the Executive Director for Information Security Operations in the Office of Information and Technology. Joe, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And can you tell us a little bit about your role and what you do for the department?
Well, first, Dan, great to be here. I'm a proud Navy veteran myself and glad we can help the veteran out. I have two main roles. My first role as Chief Privacy Officer is to really protect employee and veteran data and make sure it's safe, protected, and in use so we can use it to help provide benefits and medical services. My other role, an Executive Director for Information Security Operations, is to keep the bad guys out of the networks and keep them away from that data and also to help ensure that we're using the right privacy and security controls to further safeguard that information.
Well, so you have a heavy lift. Uh, Talking about security, I'm a veteran, also an employee, and also have a family. How secure am I?
Well, I think when you're the VA, you're very secure. We have a very professional cadre of both privacy and cybersecurity professionals safeguarding the networks and the data that we have here. But that changes when you leave work. Unfortunately, we can't work 24/7 at the VA, and I can't protect you all the time. And the FTC Federal Trade Commission had some alarming figures on your vulnerability. there was 4.8 million identity thefts and fraud reports in 20. And worldwide, there was over $1 trillion of lost money due to cybercrime. So very alarming, and we should definitely be concerned. We're all a target, is my message.
So we are protected at the workplace, veterans protected when they're involved with the VA network. How can a veteran or an employee protect themselves and their families? And what steps should they take? What should they look at doing to protect themselves?
A great question, Dan. It's very alarming to me that the cyber adversary is targeting not really the we call it the IT aware person, but they're looking at children and elderly, those who do not have the cyber savvy that we may have at our age. Also, they're doing a lot of identity theft out there. Children are being hit on that. So, what I'd recommend, of course, is to really monitor that. Get credit reports annually. We talked about checking kids and elderly's phones. Make sure the privacy settings are set, and make sure they have a little bit of awareness. And the links that we'll provide today, you can share them with them as well, and have a real important talking to, because the elderly, the seniors, are really targeted because they have money. They're not as tech savvy as maybe a younger generation is, and we have to be very careful on that. So they are being targeted, and we want to make sure they have an awareness. And some of the tips we talk about today and the references should be shared with both the children and elderly and seniors alike. I would also recommend, with your networks, it's all starting out how you connect to the internet. We see a phone and a computer the same way. So each one is vulnerable. There was some perceptions in the past that phones may be more secure. They're not. That we make sure we're connecting to the right parts of the network, a secure network, that your Wi-Fi password is complex and change often, and just be aware of where you're connecting. Those are good starting points, I think, Dan, to help not only the veteran but children and maybe elderly parents.
Well, thanks for that. And I know our audience, thank you for that. Uh, just to let you know, I get lots of emails at work and at home. I won prizes or been told I won prizes. I won vacations, or at least I've been told I won vacations. And I also been told I won money or have money or benefits through various government programs. How can a veteran or an employee or anyone else recognize these? They look like scams. And what
Mhm.
can one do to protect themselves from these scams?
So very common. We see it here at the VA often. We see it at home. So it starts out looking at the email itself. Take a top-down approach. Look at the sender. Where's it coming from? If you look, like say it's Navy Federal, right? A lot of veterans have Navy Federal as their banking service, and you might see an email. It could be Joe Stenaka at nfcu.org. That looks like a pretty decent sender, but sometimes spammers or the adversary will use, Joe Stenaka at, and there'll be a long line of letters, .nfc.org. So that's kind of your first tip. Where is it coming from? Then you go down a little further, look at the subject line. Is it alarming? Hey, your account's been hacked, or your password's expired, or we need to talk to you immediately. Those
Right.
alarming messages often are, or I won a prize, I won a cruise, like in your case, Dan. Those are really good tippers because they make emotions. Who doesn't want to go on a cruise, have a free vacation, or have more money? Or, oh no, my account's been compromised, or my password's been compromised. And then so that kind of gives you a feel. If the subject line looks good, go a little further. Read the subject line. If it doesn't make sense, doesn't read well in English, it's probably a good scam possibility. If there's an attachment or they want you to click a link to change a password and username, those are great indicators. And one of the things that I would recommend is in the NFCU, for example, don't click a link in the email. Go to the NFC.org webpage in this example, and then call or check there. And that way you can bypass any of those trickeries that a spammer may be using to get your password or other information. I hope that helps.
Right. So, in other words, what you're saying, I guess, slow down. Don't just click, pause, think, then respond.
I would. You mentioned the cyber crime site we're working with, I also recommend the scamspotter.org website that we will include in the link to see if these are scams, and go out there and take a look at that, and do report if you think it's a scam. Report it, because we're all collectively trying to safeguard information. But great question, Dan.
And I heard the terms phishing and whaling. Uh, what does that mean, and why is it important?
Sure. So phishing is a targeted email after to get some kind of response. So let's say, Dan, you're a Steelers fan, right? Sorry about that. We all can't be Eagle fans, but
Oh,
let's say you're a Steeler fan, and hey, I have free tickets. So I know a little bit about Dan, and I send you an email saying, hey, click here for enter your password, username, or whatever. I want you to do some kind of behavior. So it's really kind of targeted to you and you're and the Steelers, for example. So I know I'll have some kind of response. A whaling email is a little different. They're targeting executives, those who may have huge access to data, and so they call it a whale, the larger fish, and they're trying to get him to give a username, for example. I've seen that in the past. Hey, please enter your username password to your corporate network, for example. And definitely give the keys to the kingdom, so to say. So definitely a different targeting between whaling and phishing.
talked about email. Uh, I, I have some social media accounts, and I guess a lot of other people do too. One Sunday morning, I got a instant message on Facebook from one of my cousins, and I know my cousin. I know my cousin's personality, and one of the things they said was, "I saw your name in this HHS directory, along with your photo. You look like you may be entitled to blank dollars." So what I did was, fortunately, Sunday morning, I took my time, took a deep breath. I copied all the text, pasted it into Google, and lo and behold, it came up as an HHS scam. So fortunately, I didn't click on anything. I didn't respond. But can you talk to us about some of these types of situations? And I know that there are thousands, if not millions, of these types of situations that happen probably daily.
Great, and you're not the only one. Unfortunately, this is very common. We've all been affected by these attacks and efforts by the adversary. So I'll share two personal stories. I went to my son's seventh grade STEM program to talk about cybersecurity. I was real excited to share tips with the young kids, kind of like we talked about earlier as a target. And I walked in, and I went to the door. There was no one in the class. I hit the computer button, no password, and I see the whole roster of the school district right there. So I had to talk to a teacher offline to remind him of this proper security procedures. But then, even more alarming, Dan, was I started asking questions. I started talking about the generic, don't share your name. And I asked a question like, how many who have Twitter accounts? Half the students have. And I asked them, well, how many put their age and what school they go to? And most of them did. And most of them included their phone number. Some even had their addresses. So, there's definitely a safety issue with children in that situation. Very alarming for me. I was very passionate to get the word out that we really need to clamp down that. So I really strongly recommend parents take a look at their children's social media. I know it seems a little tough, but we don't want to have a bad thing happen to them. So we definitely want to make sure that's being checked out, and just alarming. I'm sure that still continues. Um, there was another situation I know my daughter was talking to me about. She has her laptop open in her room, and I said, you should probably cover up your camera. And her response was, well, it's a Mac. I don't have to worry about it. And plus, the light will come on. Well, cyber hackers turn those lights off. So, be very careful. There was several cases, I think, recently of people spying on children. So make sure you're covering up the camera, protecting their safety. So lots of work to be done by parents. I know the kids will not like that. I have kids, and I know they don't like it, but it's for their own safety. On the other side is on the senior citizens, and this actually happened to me last week, so it was really surprising, and I can definitely use it here. So my mom clicked, "Hey, get more Medicare benefits." Real excited about that. She went through a long line of questions. I don't think she entered her social security number, but address, phone number, all that stuff. The numbers, people start calling literally right away. We must have had 40, 50 calls. My dad's trying to block them all. I do whack-a-mole with that. And so what I'm going to tell you later is what I recommend. So we walked my parents through. We did immediate credit freezes on all three monitoring agencies. You can go there; it's free. Lock the credit so no one can open up accounts in your name. And this is really good for the kids as well, and for you as well. I recommend it for everybody. If you want to do a loan or a credit card application, as simply as going in there, using your username and password and unfreezing it, doing the credit card, and then go out and then close it back up. And also, we talked about spamming, using apps on the phone to block unwanted calls. And the advice I gave my mom, I think, is true here as well. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. And you can always use the websites like we talked about earlier, like on the Navy Federal example. Go out to the website, check, um, and see if it is true. A lot of times, spammers will say there's somebody like Navy Federal, and they're really not. So those are two things that are really kind of hitting me hard, and I do practice what I preach in cybersecurity.
Awesome, awesome. No, this is very helpful. I'm learning a lot as I'm talking with you, and learn a lot as I have to do things. And I guess we all have to do things. And ultimately, I guess protecting yourself, putting up those barriers, and reducing the digital footprint. Can you talk a little bit about that and still remaining connected?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at deactivating old accounts, going out there, knowing where you're on, and surprisingly, people forget. Maybe an old Facebook or MySpace. I don't know if that's even around, but go disable those things. Unsubscribe from email subscriptions. Be very careful on that. If you don't need them, stay off of them. Disable location tracking. I think this is very critical as well. A lot of things they know where you're at. Maybe you're not at home, and definitely shouldn't be telling the world on those things. Also, check your privacy settings on the devices. A lot of people you can, at least on Facebook and others, you can only let people see what you're sharing or where you're at or any updates. So be very careful and really don't overshare. I mean, I think we're all probably done it before. Hey, I'm on vacation. I put a picture of on a cruise ship, and well, now if someone sees that, they know you're not home. Maybe your spouse is with you and they're not home, and maybe you get broken into. And I remember when I was over at DoD that they brought in the NCIS agent, and we went in and they asked them where you live, and they went right to Google Maps and they could see, oh, there's your child there. We know you're a single mom. Very scary stuff. So all through social media. So the adversaries using social media to guess passwords like your birth date. Don't put your birth date down there if you have to. Or a lot of times those password questions like what school did you go to? That you put a lot of people put a lot of stuff on social media, and just don't do that. That would be my advice.
Wow, there's a lot of things to think about, and it's kind of scary. Uh, we're in the midst of this pandemic, and people are going to travel. They're going to visit relatives or take vacations. Uh, there's a lot of, I guess, free Wi-Fi out there as well. How can we protect ourselves, or what should we be doing to protect ourselves in that event?
Well, there's a couple things. So first of all, credit card skimming is a key threat. And what they're doing is our RFID. They're using scanners. They can not even physically touch you and get your credit card information. So I recommend they have devices like for your passport and your credit cards for RFID screening, protecting those things. I would also look at using Google Pay or Apple Pay or your phone and paying those ways. Also, is interesting, and it actually happens here in the United States all the time as well. People will put fake ATM scanners on there, and they can see your PIN number, and sometimes so you can kind of pull that off sometimes if it's like not attached correctly. So be aware of where you're putting your card because now they have your information, and now they have your PIN number. So I think it's being aware of your situation. You talked about public Wi-Fi. That's a real big issue for us because people can say you could be in a hotel and you get your Stenaka, you put your room number in. Well, everybody can see what you're typing in there. So your email password's going across the thing. So what you want to do is use a VPN, virtual private network. Make sure you're protecting the transmission of data. If you can use a mobile hotspot. Use your cell phone. Cell phone's good security, and tie your laptop to a cell phone if you're going to use a laptop in those situations. But you should never ever use public Wi-Fi without some kind of security to help protect your data.
Good to know. Good to know. So we talked about a lot so far, and ultimately, eh, we're thinking about protecting ourselves, protecting the veteran, and protecting family members. Can you kind of go back and highlight what we should be doing to protect ourselves, protect our children, protect other members of our families?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I didn't mention earlier. One is like physical security. Here's my phone here. Protect it and make sure you have a username, password, screen. People steal things. Papers coming out of your computer, printing. Make sure you're shredding these. Don't let the people just don't throw them in the trash can. People can gain a lot. It's called dumpster diving. People get a lot of information, credit card information, social security number information. So think about the physical world. Even though we're in IT here, you really have to think about that. Credit monitoring, identity theft is key. We talked about freezing the computer, freezing your accounts, getting a yearly credit report. You'd be surprised what you may have. I know I did a couple years ago, and I had a credit card back from college that I wasn't aware of. And cleaning those accounts out. Don't be sharing financial or medical information with anybody unless you know who you're talking to. Be aware of emails. Email is a very common, probably the most common avenue that an adversary will try to get to you because it's easy. It costs them nothing. I'm really scared about the children and the senior citizens. I think that's a threat vector that's being taken advantage of. Be careful in stressful situations like COVID. I know I saw a lot about, oh, the COVID masks are on sale, get them here. Here's a vaccine. So you'll see a lot during like hurricane relief. You'll see a lot of scams on that. But just be aware and lots of great resources here. I want to share a few other things and taking the precautions. Make it really hard for someone to get to you. So I recommend update your software. That's always a given. Patch, patch, patch. Use security software like an antivirus program. Use your firewall. Always disable location services and data sharing with third parties. Don't need to share unwanted data. So my mother's situation, it said in the bottom, we also are going to share your information with others. So make sure you disable that. Always use the highest privacy setting. Use the capability of your phone to safeguard your stuff. Delete your search history and your caches, and just be aware of where you're at because people could be simply looking over your shoulder when you're at work, typing in sensitive information. So that awareness, like you're maybe in a bad part of town and you need to be careful of. So I think those are things to take a look at. Hope that helps.
No, this is very helpful, very helpful. So, and if you think about it, we've come a long way in terms of just technology alone, with laptops, iPads, you name it, the cell phone, and the different tools that we have, the different tools we're using. Where do you see us going 5, 10 years from now? And where do you, in terms of the security that's going to be used to protect whatever that tool is?
Yeah, I do see we're going to continue on miniaturizing more Internet of Things is called connections, like your refrigerator, your TV connected internet. All those are vulnerable pieces, and we often forget that. Your cars are more automated, so more ways an adversary can get to your network. And I think our awareness is decreasing as well as a society. I think we need to continue being vigilant, and every new technology also has new vulnerabilities we have to be aware of. So I think that miniaturization of IT, more IT points, and just more of a risk for us in the future we have to be careful for.
Joe, we covered a lot today. Is there anything I missed? Because security is not one of those things that everybody likes to talk about. People want to talk about the nice things, the shiny toys, but security isn't one of those shiny toys. Uh, Greatly appreciated. But is there anything that I missed? Anything you want to add?
No, I just want to add that we have great resources online here that we posted, and I just kind of gave a little overview of some of the basics. But I strongly recommend everybody take a look at the links, share it with children, share it with seniors in your family, and really use them and really tighten things down. Make it hard for an adversary. There's a lot of people not doing security, and I think it's like being on a neighborhood, right, with a guard and a dog and a fence. No one's gonna get you. And make it really hard. Make it where someone else is broken into. So make it more difficult for them.
Wow. But Joe, thank you. I think the listeners those who are watching us learned a lot. If nothing else, it refreshed their memories of things they should be doing, like password updates. I think that we need to be aware and remain aware. So, Joe, thank you so much for participating and taking the time to talk to us. We could stay here and talk
Sure.
all day into the evening about security and about how we can protect ourselves. I know you got to get back to work. I think we all learned a lot. Uh, Join us for the next episode of Talking Tech, where we talk about how ones and zeros help our nation's heroes. If you have an IT service or application, please contact our IT vendor management office at itvmo@va.gov. Again, thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Dan.
Your
My
veterans
pleasure.
thank you. Our nation thanks you.